Hello, today I thought I'd talk about Dune. Since it's not exactly a new series, beware of spoilers throughout. Now, this series has influenced so many works that I could sit here all day and try to come up with a list, and it would still just be the tip of the iceberg. But to save everyone's time, mostly because I'm pretty sure that list already exists online, I'm not going to try to do that. Um, So I guess let's get into it. First, let's talk about the box set in general. It's a pretty beautiful box set. It was very nicely redone, and I'd say it's about a B, maybe a B plus in quality work. I would have given it higher. Come on, there it goes. But I have one minor gripe with it, and that's the inside of the box. They spent so much time and effort coming up with art. Even on the bottom. The bottom has been finished, but not the inside. That they could have just taken that little bit of extra effort, that few pennies worth of extra money per set, and completed the look. And I already hear what your thoughts are, but no one's gonna look on the inside. Well, if you're reading the book, if you're not like me and putting the dust cover back up because I don't want to destroy it, you are going to see the inside. And the same argument could be said for, the art on the inside of the dust cover. How many people are going to sit there looking at this beautiful art, but they still did it? They also put art on the inside of the book. Again, very nicely done. I love it. But it just emphasizes why did they miss this one crucial part of the box set to not put art in. Rant about that over, I guess. Let's talk about the first book, Dune. I really loved the quality of the book. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but on the cover itself, there's a nice debossed "Fear is the Mind Killer" with it's just gorgeous. Even the spine is still beautiful even without the dust cover. Not that I would store it without the dust cover, but it's still beautiful. And talking about the story itself, it's Dune. I went into the story knowing everything, having watched that movie that came out in the 80s and Sci-Fi's miniseries about the Children of Dune, which also kind of I think it was the Children of Dune that covered Dune Messiah. So it was more interesting for me to go through the book looking for the hints that Herbert left throughout about where the story was going. His hints telling us that Paul's story is not going to necessarily be a happy ending. One thing I will note, not about the story, but about the introduction that his son did. It was a very nicely done introduction. I only have a gripe that it has spoilers in it, and for people that haven't read it and don't know the story and are just starting and opening the book and reading it, that could be annoying. Because the introduction, generally, I like to read them first. It's at the front, I'll read it first. And that just kind of lessens the effect of the book if you're a first-time reader. It should have been put at the end so that it's not screwing with things. But whatever. It's a minor gripe. I already knew the story, so nothing was really spoiled for me. The story itself was, of course, it's Dune. I don't know that there's a lot to say about it. It's the granddaddy of all sci-fi. It's to the sci-fi genre what the Lord of the Rings is to the fantasy genre. It's a great book. The meetings and stuff can get a little boring at times. So if you haven't read sci-fi before, I would not recommend this as your first book. It's a bit of a drier book. It's kind of boring at times. It's slow to get through because it's doing a ton of important world building, but it still has this problem of you're in an advanced society, so a lot of the world building is going to take place in meetings and councils, and that can just get a little samey and boring after a while. But the book mixed it up nicely. It's a huge book, so it took me 2 days to read instead of the normal one. And I really liked it. I'm glad I tried to pick it up again as an adult and read it again. As a teenager, I just did not have the patience for what the book was. But now, with, a couple extra decades behind me, it was definitely worth the read. Moving on to Dune Messiah. This book was really intended as a bridge. It was designed to connect Dune and Children of Dune together. And it kind of reads like that. But I didn't care for it. Not for the reason that a lot of people didn't care for it, but for the reason a lot of people had gripes with Star Wars Episode 2. So many meetings, so many councils, so much just sitting around and talking. And it really dragged down everything. Now, this is a pretty small book, so it's tolerable, just boring. There is one thing that kind of annoyed me, and you see it in Children of Dune 2, Children of Dune as well. And it's the themes of incest. Holy crap, I get it. We're in a royal lineage and we're talking about royals, but this is in the future where we understand science and we understand how, awful that is from a scientific perspective, not just a holy crap, that's creepy perspective. So just stop it. That's all I have to say with the incest themes. Stop. Just stop. It's annoying. It's not needed. It doesn't add anything other than this is creepy. Stop it. Aside from that, I really liked where the story with Paul went. Since I already knew the themes, I knew he wasn't gonna win, but it was a good read. And since I had already seen the media and known it, it was mostly interesting for me to get the extra backstory, the stuff that you can't put into the movies or the miniseries because it doesn't work well in that medium. And that was the fun for me to get all the extra stuff that they had to drop in the adaptation and understand the story that was being told more fully. And I mean, like I said, it's a pretty thin book. It took me an afternoon to read, and it was probably my least favorite of the three, but for different reasons than I see a lot for it in complaints on the internet. Of course, then there's the Children of Dune. This one was my favorite. Um, I hadn't realized how much they had aged the kids up for the miniseries, which led to some moments that I thought were again just weird. But it was my favorite. I liked this so much more than the first, and I really loved Dune. Um, it's my favorite because I really just liked the extra action, seeing how the Leto, however you pronounce it, went along his journey and watching his sister manage things in the royal household. My did have a few complaints about it though. Um, I get the idea that they're not really 9-year olds because they're preborn, but at the same time, seeing 9-year olds talk about children having children is weird. And like I said, I get it. They're not really children, but it's still a little weird. Again, we were brought up with themes of incest. And again, stop it. I don't need it. It's a waste of time. And my third complaint was just what they did with the breeding program, with the Bene Gesserit breeding program, because at the end, Paul takes control of it. He's going to create his own dynasty, starting with his sister and what's his name? I forgot his name. The prince that his grandmother trained in Bene Gesserit ways, without giving us any real picture that this prince is genetically a good choice to start this dynasty, which wouldn't have been hard to give us. And it's just kind of odd. Now, I get this book was written, several decades ago, and understanding of that may not have been as well understood and prolific as it is today. But at the same time, you're talking about a breeding program. You're talking about the things that are already understood in science, and you're not showing the due diligence to show that both sides of this first in the line meet the requirements to be the first of this new dynasty. I mean, we can assume that his sister is fine. They're the product already, the product of a long breeding program to create them. But you don't get that with the prince, and it bugged me. I don't know how much it'll bug other people. Maybe I'm just being pedantic, but I found it mildly irritating that that Herbert couldn't have included some lines talking about them investigating this prince's lineage from a genetic standpoint and moving on from there. Like I said, that's a pretty minor quibble. We also see hints that he's kind of going down the same path as his father and becoming this not necessarily good dictator. I am aware of the other three books. I'm sure that I will get around to reading them. I really hope that they get the same new art treatment as the first three. If they do, I look forward to buying those books. If not, I'll buy the older cover copies and read those. The content won't change, or it shouldn't at least. But overall, I'm glad that I finally got around to going back and reading these. It recontextualized a lot of the sci-fi that I love in ways that I didn't expect, and some ways that I did. Um, as always, if you like this video, please leave a like. If not, a dislike. And if you've any thoughts on things you'd like me to talk about in the future, please let me know in the comments. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.